Hi everyone, Podcast Brain Pills here, the internet's busiest music nerd, and it's time for a review of the new Don Toliver record, Lovesick. This is the third full-length album from Houston vocalist Mr. Don Toliver, whose career has held a pretty steady limelight position ever since he signed on with Travis Scott's Cactus Jack label, essentially building up a sound that felt like an R&B tinged offshoot of Scott's own brand of progressive psychedelic trap. A few years ago, Toliver hit us with a pretty meager debut that, yes, was one-dimensional, but still had a pretty distinct style and sound to it. The very next year, he dropped Life's a Dawn, which runtime-wise was a much larger project. Aesthetically, I think this record expanded Toliver's sound too, but the overall vibe of this thing was so low-key, so washed out, so cloudy, a great deal of it was a snooze fest. Almost none of the bold flavor he rode in on through tracks like No Idea showed up. So I went into Lovesick hoping to hear a bit more of a pulse, and I will admit it is a bolder move, with features from Future, Bieber, James Blake, Kali Uchis, Toro y Moi, as well as Lil Durk, among others. The production's definitely more visceral and versatile this time around too. I think Toliver is trying to shine more vocally on this record as well, pushing his range a bit, showcasing a wider variety of inflections, which ultimately is good. I like hearing the ambition, but I think his attempts at flying toward the sun fall flat for the most part, and for kind of obvious reasons. Lovesickness is a pretty toothless piece of psych trap with some lazy guitars hanging in the background. Not exactly the strongest tone setter for the album, especially with Toliver's vocal mix and the bass being so aggressive it overtakes everything else in the song. I suppose the falsetto vocal harmonies and mystical production on Let Her Go are pretty nice, but there's something kind of off about the James Blake feature on here. The nuances get kind of lost in this cluttered instrumental, and then there are some parts of it that feel weirdly distant, other parts that feel like they're mic'd super closely as if I'm hearing, I don't know, an ASMR recording. It's presented in this really inconsistent way that I don't think is all that flattering to James's voice, and on top of it, it doesn't exactly make for a climactic finish either. Then we have Leave the Club. I believe the first time I heard this track, I said if I heard this in a club, I would leave, and that's still pretty much the case. We have a pretty choppy, low-budget beat on this one, soaked in very lush synthesizers. Toliver's verses are meandering and don't bring much punch. Meanwhile, the hooks are loaded with these ridiculous falsetto leads that come across sillier than I think he's intending them to. The only redeeming qualities of the track, in my opinion, are the Durk feature and the pretty epic beat switch in the last leg. Then, why is the groove on For Me so damn awkward? It actually kind of interrupts Toliver's and Kali Uchis' ability to stir up any real chemistry on here. And why is the singing on Go Down so freaking awful, especially around the midpoint, to where the autotune can't even save it? There are a few cuts in the middle of this track list that I think pick the momentum up a little bit. There's Honeymoon, which has a slick and groovy bass line, over which Toliver sounds really flirty, funny, charismatic, as he throws out imagery of an intense but volatile love, kind of getting Anderson .Paak vibes off of this one, and in the best way possible. Then there's Private Landing, featuring Justin Bieber and Future, which is a moody trap banger loaded with all of these low-key eccentricities. We have Toliver's left field vocal inflection, some droning bass, some sinister keys. Future's appearance is bold, meanwhile Justin Bieber's vocal runs on here are super melodic and smooth. Even if the features and production make up a lot of the track's appeal, this is still one of the stronger songs in Toliver's catalog. But sadly, the momentum this cut brings doesn't last far into the second half of Lovesick. There's Slow Motion, which is a sensual dance cut featuring WizKid, which is for sure a highlight, laced with trippy effects and synthesizers that sound like a slowed down version of an 80s club hit. Meanwhile, Do It Right is another attempt at a slow jam, but this one wears out its welcome really quickly, with some really obnoxious and nasally inflections on the chorus, party all night, and super messy production that sees the drums, keys, and bass all syncing up into these super flabby hits that are frumpy and distorted, and just doesn't really convey the smoothness and beauty the song is clearly going for. If I Had, with Charlie Wilson, slows things down even more. It's kind of a spacey love odyssey, which in concept is fine, but vocally the song has no real direction from Charlie or Don himself. Like, the tune of this thing is weak as hell. The chords are just super back burner, just very faint. It feels like everyone involved is just trying to fill the air in a really awkward fashion just to make it seem like something is happening, which I think Don does a better job of on Company Part 3, but not by much. Thankfully, this album hits us with one more major banger before it bows out with Bus Stop. The cute and catchy vocal samples from Blackstreet's I Can't Get You Out of My Mind make for a really nice interpolation, but what really steals the show on this cut is the bumping production from Hit Boy, Deep Pat, 206 Derek. The kicks on this track are relentless. They just go, 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 go. It's like an Energizer Bunny type beat, which makes the much more atmospheric and woozier beat switch on the second half of the song feel that much better, especially when Brent Faiyaz comes through with a really passionate performance. The downside of which is that pretty handily he displays himself as being pretty superior, vocally speaking, to Don. And Encouragement is an attempt at I suppose, a triumphant closer, where Don throws out a few corny bars like that one about she only cries on her pill and on her pillow. Yeah, that's in the mix here, but again, it is a feel-good moment where he gives a nod to his success, to Travis Scott, his girlfriend Kali Uchis, which is cute. Seems like he's in a really good place, in a positive place on the end of this record, and that's great. That's fine. Don is entitled to toast to his own success at the end of a record that I hope does well for him, but ultimately I just don't feel like that sense of achievement is coming through in the artistry on the record, because once more I feel like Don Toliver's production choices are super inconsistent. His songwriting is often mid or just not really there in terms of chops or direction. His vocal performances and arrangements often leave something to be desired, and truth be told, he's not the strongest lyricist either. And finally, when there are great moments on this record, they often come by way of the beat or the feature on the track being so good. So yeah, I feel like he's not really advancing all that much and just not improving as far as his craft at making albums. I'm feeling a light to decent 5 on this LP. Transition, have you given this album a listen? Did you love it? Did you hate it? What would you rate it? You're the best, you're the best. What should I review next? Hit the like if you like. Please subscribe and please don't cry. Hit the bell as well. Over here next to my head, it's another video you can check out. Hit that up or the link to subscribe to the channel. Anthony Fantano, Don Toliver, forever.